The search continues for the perfect blazer. This time we're putting the SB Zoom Blazer under the knife in the hopes that a purpose-built skateboarding version of the blazer is unlike the previous 2 or 3 blazers we've cut apart in the regular blazers and the premium blazers that were actually less premium than the regular blazers. And I just want to know if Nike actually made this a skateboarding shoe or if they just threw that SB in front of it in the hopes that skateboarders would buy it and not know the difference. Well, that's what we're gonna figure out by cutting this thing in half, run it through the test to see if it's more just Nike BS or if it is actually a skateboarding shoe. And thanks to the Morning Dram for sponsoring this video. If you don't know who the Morning Dram is, you're missing out because it's some of the most wild coffee that you can buy. Because what they do is they take the coffee beans and they age them in X whiskey and other spirit barrels. And what that does is it doesn't infuse it with alcohol as much as some of us might wish it did, but it absorbs the flavor and the smell of the whiskey or whatever the spirit is. And so when you brew this coffee, you get that sweet coffee smell topped with a little bit of that whiskey flavor and that smell as well. So it just makes for a really unique tasting coffee, a smelling coffee. I love it because when we walk in the shop in the morning, someone's always had a pot brewed up. So I walk in, I get that leather smell, I get the coffee smell, I get the whiskey smell. It's just some of the best smelling coffee in the world because of that. And if you've never tried it before or you're not a big coffee nerd, they have kits that make it super easy to try because they give you everything you need, including a grinder, a strainer, and a mug. And then they give you 2 of the barrel aged and 1 single origin to be able to try everything that they make. And they also make a really good gift. Or if you don't need the strainer and the grinder and all this stuff, you can get kits and still get that price saving and try all the different coffees by buying one of their kits. So I'll put links in the description, and thank you guys for supporting the Morning Dram. There's a reason they're always on the channel. It's because you guys like them and you support them. And when you support them, the Morning Dram supports us and they sponsor videos. It's just this great circle of good products that we're able to show on the channel instead of just some of the stuff that none of us care about. So thanks again to the Morning Dram, check them out below. So what is this shoe? Well, the brand is Nike SB. The style is the Zoom Blazer Mid. They weigh 1 pound even. They retail for a cheaper on the blazer spectrum at $90, and they're made in China. And the way that the brand positions this is the Nike SB Zoom Blazer Mid takes a heritage design and tailors it to the needs of a modern skateboarder. Soft cushioning and a flexible sole work together to provide great board feel and traction. So they have claims about it. They're claiming that it is a purpose-built skating sneaker. So we'll see if that's actually true. And like I mentioned, the prices are on the SB is cheaper than the other 2 that we've cut apart because the regular pair of blazers is $105 and the premiums are $115 and the SBs are $90. So a little bit of concern there that it's cheaper, but it's supposed to be a more durable shoe. And the paneling is even different, which surprised me because if you remember the regular blazers, they are already perfectly built for skateboarding because you have a little extra toe cap and you have a little ollie patch, which if it was a true double layer, you would have double the protection so that you didn't wear through the shoe nearly as fast and have to buy a new pair. Regular blazers, it's not double layered, unfortunately. And so the hope was that an SB would have true double layers, but it doesn't have either of those protective layers. It doesn't have a toe cap and it doesn't have an ollie patch. So to me, it's absolutely asinine that on the skateboarding version, they removed the protective paneling. I don't get that at all. But there is one big difference with the leather, and you'll notice that the entire SB sneaker is all suede leather all the way across the shoe. Instead of using this really cheap plastic coated leather in the regular blazers, or even worse, plastic coated suede in the premiums, which would not be the greatest leather for skateboarding because as soon as you hit that once with the grip tape, they're gonna start falling apart and they're just gonna look terrible immediately. So suede at least gives you some extra protection, and Sam said that suede grips the board a little bit better so you can control the board versus the slippery plastic coating, so that makes sense. But what is the quality of this suede? Well, looking at the cross section, it is a full suede, which means it's lower in that leather cross section where instead of having that smooth grain pattern that gives leather its strength and durability and holds all those loose suede fibers together, it's not that cross section, it's the byproduct of that cross section that's just loose fibers. Without that grain pattern, all those loose fibers start working themselves apart, and you can see how baggy and soft and how you can make a stretch mark in this leather because it literally is just the cheapest portion of leather. So the way they've mitigated some of the negative aspects of that is by backing it with a piece of canvas all the way across the entire shoe, which basically acts as the grain and keeps all those loose fibers together. And you might be thinking, well, they have to use suede to get the properties we talked about, the abrasion resistance, the grip on the grip tape, but there is a solution around that. All you do is take a regular grain piece of leather and flip it upside down, which is called rough out leather, and then you don't have to have the canvas backer, and you get that natural strength of the leather, and it's a high quality leather, but they don't do that, and that's why this is not the highest quality leather, and that's why it looks kind of baggy. And we took a measurement of this leather, and we'd hope that it was at least 1.5 millimeters thick like the regular blazers, but it's even thinner at 1.2 to 5mm thick. So it's definitely not the best leather out there, and it is not a leather selected specifically for skateboarding. It's just a cheap suede. And as for the other panels, the two like neon yellow patches, these are fake leather. We burned them to see, and fake leather, which not a huge crime. It's pretty common for the swooshes on Nikes. And then if we look at the inside of the shoe, which is another high wear spot where a lot of skaters wear their shoes out. Well, if you remember the regular blazers, you've got the fake leather with the fabric lining. The more premium, it has terry cloth with fabric. What about the SBs? Well, it's just fabric all the way through, which, you know, that's not the craziest crime, but you know, maybe you'd hope for a skateboarding version that you have a little bit of extra durability, maybe in the heel to protect that heel slip from wearing through the heel. But there is one difference between these shoes. This lining acts as a gusset for the tongue, which helps keep that tongue from slipping to the other side. Because if you look at the regular blazers, it's just connected right at the very base of the tongue, so this tongue can slip around. It allows stuff to get to the inside of your shoe, versus the SBs have that gusset. But there's one huge problem, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. This gusset is just the lining, and so if you get any dirt or any junk on the inside of your shoe, instead of it just going to the inside where you might be able to dump it out, or like a true gusset where it doesn't even get to the inside of the shoe, this lining creates a funnel for dirt and everything else to work to the inside of your shoe, trapping it in between the liner and the outside of the leather. So you'd have to literally undo your laces and get in there and dump out all the junk that's built up on the inside. I don't know how they ended up doing that. That's a terrible, terrible design. And all they'd have to do is sew that a little bit tighter to the sidewall and the problem would be fixed. But if there is one thing that is the saving grace of this shoe, it's the insole, because this is maybe one of the biggest differences, and it's not even that big of a difference if we're being honest, and that's that the regular blazers just have your classic, really cheap Nike insole, open cell foam, topped with whatever lining, versus the SBs, same insole, but instead they've got a little zoom packet on the bottom here. And zoom packets are basically an air unit that have little filaments on the inside that give it a little bit more structure, allow you to put more air pressure in it allegedly, and it allows it to be more responsive, and the air flows a little bit more evenly throughout the air unit. So for skateboarding, when you're constantly, I hit that so loud, when you're constantly landing on your heels and your feet over and over and over, and you're jumping all day, every day, just a little bit extra cushioning could go a long way. You know, and to test to see if it actually makes an effect, we did the bar drop test, the ball drop test, and the results were basically doubled across the board. So it seems like there is some real world data to back it up. It's garage science data, but at least, you know, you can see that it is more responsive. And even walking around in it, you can feel there's a little extra cushioning and squish in the heel. So at least there's one thing we can point to that seems to be purpose built for skateboarding. And then if you look under the insole, it seems like everything else is about the same, because the lasting material is the same, the strobo stitch the same, the outsole seems to be about the same. You know, the herringbones are a little bit bigger, maybe that's to grip onto the skateboard just a little bit better. The sidewalls are pretty much the same, just a different pattern on the foxing. And other than that, all the differences have to be on the inside, if there is any at all. So let's cut this thing in half and really find out if these are truly purpose-built, or if they just threw a zoom packet on an insole and was like, oh, that's close enough to an SB. So let's cut it in half. All right, we got them cut in half, and if you're not subscribed, consider doing it, because that's one free little click that you can do to help us afford to cut apart 2 brand new pairs of shoes every single week. So let's see what's inside. So now that we have it cut, what's the difference between these shoes? Well, there's not a whole lot of difference. Really the only thing on the inside that's different is the outsole is 1mm thicker. The other 2 blazers are 5mm, the SB is 6mm. But other than that, there's just a couple other tiny differences, like there's one extra little layer of rubber in the sole construction, and the toe stiffener is a little piece of rubber compared to the other ones that don't have any toe stiffener. But that's it. There's no extra padding, there's nothing in the sole construction, it's just a regular blazer. So what do you actually get from this tailored design for the SB? Well, you do get the zoom packet in the heel, midsole. You get 1 millimeter of extra thickness in the outsole. You got a tongue gusset that's a funnel for dirt, and you have a toe stiffener. That's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot in this shoe that is specifically designed for skateboarding. What are the bad things you get from this shoe by basically downgrading from a regular Blazer to this one? Well, you don't get ollie patches, you don't get the toe cap, you get a thinner, cheaper suede, you have a less durable lining that funnels dirt, and you have no extra foam in the collar like people have claimed. So is this SB Blazer the best of the 3 for skateboarding? I don't think there's enough here to say that it's that much better than any other shoe for skating. You know, I think you could skate in any of these and they'd probably perform about the same. There's really marginal differences between these. And not enough, in my opinion, to justify calling it a skateboard specific sneaker. Which really sucks, because if you bought these, assuming that you were buying a purpose-built skateboarding sneaker, that's not what you're getting. You're just getting Nike's marketing machine. It really seems like they're just taking products and repositioning them and remarketing the same product for several different demographics and just changing the names to try to capture as many sales as humanly possible with as little R&D and changes to the product as possible. And the only angle I can think of that Nike might justify this with is they made the shoe cheaper so that when skaters thrash their shoes, they can afford to get another pair sooner. But for me, I'd rather just have parts upgraded, pay an extra $10 and have it last longer rather than buying a brand new pair sooner. And so the hunt continues for the perfect Blazer, a true Blazer that lives up to its potential. And we got a couple leads from you guys. One is the Blazer Premium Plus, so an extra word on top of the regular premiums. And there's an independent brand called Opiway that makes a really high-end Blazer looking sneaker. So let me know what you guys think, and if there's any other perfect Blazers out there you think we should cut apart. And let me know if you've had experience in these shoes, what your experience has been in the comment section, because we're very, very lucky to have the coolest, kindest comment section. So thank you guys for all your support and everything that we do. I love doing this and showing you guys really what you're spending your hard-earned money on. And when you're expecting to buy a skateboarding shoe and it turns out it's just a rebranded regular shoe, I think you should know. So thank you guys. See ya.